Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Lang. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Lang.
Welcome to Finding Certainty, everybody. I'm with my good friend, Mr. Jared Harrington. He's the founder and CEO of BTO Ventures, which is an intercontinental business we're going to be talking about today, and also the founder of BTO Global. BTO stands for Beat the Odds, and it's a nonprofit that he's doing some amazing things with financial literacy and entrepreneurship, and the list goes on and on. So, Jared, thanks for being here, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, my brother. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you. I always start out every show with a couple of reasons why I've invited this specific guest to join us. And really, it comes down to two things when it comes to Jared Harrington. First and foremost, he's an athlete. He's an NBA basketball player, plays for NBA Africa. And I wanted to invite Jared on kind of as a continuation of our conversation last week with Lloyd Ward of Ward Holdings. Jared and Lloyd are very good friends. They work together. And I am just fascinated by Africa, by the business opportunities there, the heart, just everything happening. So it's one of the reasons why I invited you to be on the show, Jared, just so we can delve deeper into that subject. And secondly, I love having guests. I love getting to know people who are making a difference. And you are most definitely doing that, even at your young age. I mean, I'm twice your age, at least. Yeah. I have to tell you a funny story about that later. But yeah, I'm really impressed with everything Jared is doing with his foundation. And we've got some stories to tell about that today. So Jared, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks for having me once again, man. It's an honor, that to do this with my good friend, and just influence the people about what's really going on in Africa.
Well, it's there's a lot, right? It's I think many people are even surprised, or they're just not informed on just what a vibrant continent it is, and just how much is happening business-wise, and just on many different fronts. So let's start out the session today, the episode, just getting to know you a little bit. Tell us about where you grew up. I know you're from Maryland originally, but now you're living in Africa, working and traveling back and forth. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your family, and how you got started.
Yeah, for sure, man. I was born in Washington, D.C. I lived in D.C. and, like you said, Maryland throughout my life. I've been a basketball athlete so for as long as I can remember. My brother actually is a current coach on the Dallas Cowboys. So, growing up, I always was in his shadow when, he being the football guy. And so I wanted to really, create my own lane. So I chose basketball, and I ended up getting a little tall. So from there, I ended up going to Daniel Webster College. It's in Nashua, New Hampshire. Major adjustment. And then after that, I went to Albany State University in Georgia. Did some great things there, set some records, got them on the map a little bit. And then I declared for the NBA draft after that. And then, that's where the pro story of Jared Harrington starts.
Right. So I bet that was a culture shock going from DC and Maryland to New Hampshire, right? Middle of nowhere.
For sure. But for me,
gorgeous country, but
yeah, for me, it was a mentality move. I feel like DC and Maryland at the time was home. It was a little bit too comfortable for me. So I wanted to really get away, because everybody always told me you have to be uncomfortable to make some great things happen.
I'm a firm believer of that. So, talking about culture shocks and talking about stretching yourself. I mean, you've been doing that kind of your whole career, going from Washington, D.C. up into New England, from New England down to the South in Georgia, and experiencing HBCU there. I mean, Albany State, you actually set a record there for most points ever scored by a player, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And then you went from there to Mongolia to play. I mean, talk about culture shock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
then from there to Cape Town. So tell me about your family before we jump in too much about basketball. Do you have siblings, parents still
for
living?
sure.
What's going on
So
in
my
that department?
For sure. So I have two parents. They've been married for the last 35 years. They're awesome. Shout out to Daryl, Dolly, and Harrington. I have a
Nice.
big brother. Like I said, he's coach for the Dallas Cowboys currently. He actually played overseas football before. He had a little stint with the Chargers, and then he actually went to Europe, lived over there for about 5 years, and then from there he began his coaching career. So that's a guy that I modeled myself out of as well. And then I have a big sister who has, she just has degrees, just degree after degree after degree. So she's, we're a very focused, tight knit family. We
Nice.
don't really, our situation is a little different, right? Because we don't really pat each other on the back as much as the average family. We're more of okay, this is what you were supposed to do. Now, what's next, right? And so when you grow up in that mentality, man, it always, helps you scale and it helps you really, see where you really want to go.
Right. Isn't it like that? Our family, they motivate us in one way or the other. We come from a family that struggled and has problems, and we want to break out of that, break the chain, right, and do something more. Or we come from a very successful family, and there's that expectation and that competition and that drive. And I think good, bad, or indifferent, our families do form us and guide us and make us who we are. So I'm
100%.
grateful to hear you come from a great family, and congrats to your parents. 35 years. It's nothing to shake a stick at.
For sure. For sure.
With as many marriages are failing these days, I love it when I hear about a family, a couple who's stuck it out, because it's hard work, right? I mean, marriage
it's super hard work. I can already tell you it's super hard work.
I mean, you're still single, but you've seen it. You've experienced it. You've watched your parents go through good times, bad times, I'm sure, and hard times. And it's
For
just
sure.
not
And
giving up, right?
and we also got to think about my dynamic that I grew up with outside of my immediate family, right? Because I'm growing up with aunties and uncles and cousins and friends. They don't know anything about marriage. They don't, 20-year marriages, nothing like that. So my parents were really the first to do a lot of great things, right? The first
Wow.
to, stick it out, the first to make a decent amount of money compared to the rest of my family. So, we have always been taught, even though our reality is like this, don't be a conformist of it. Do more.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, John and Sue, they've been married 54 years. I can always remember that because I'm 53. I was born like 9 months after they were married. I was a true, honeymoon baby, right? I think 8
For
months,
sure.
3 weeks to the day. And, it's interesting talking about your siblings, because I look at my own children. I've got 5 children, 3 boys, 2 girls. And you're absolutely right that they each picked their lane, right? You picked basketball. Your brother was football. Your sister's academics. I've got, my oldest 2, my son and daughter, are both very academic. My daughter got a full ride scholarship to Wellesley College in Boston. Now she's applying for dental schools. My son went the kind of the science route. He got a scholarship to University of Oregon, got a double major, works for Intel now. The next 2 are the athletes. My daughter was a gymnast for the Oregon Ducks. Now she's out of school, and my son is at Cal State Bakersfield as a diver, and my last son is playing football and chasing girls, and he's 16. So
living the life.
He's enjoying driving. I mean, but they're very different. All personalities are different. They each kind of took their lane, and it's I'm proud. So Jared and I met, for all of our listeners out there, we met at a CEO summit at Liberty University in October of this year. So we're fairly new friends, but we hit it right off. And we were there for this big CEO summit, African Delegate Summit, where they do a combined conference for the week. And much of it is about developing trade and relationships between Africa and the U.S. There's several delegates. I mean, the president of Ghana spoke there, and along with Newt Gingrich and so forth. But Jared was one of the celebrities there. I mean, he came in, was asked to come in and speak. You were actually there for just a short time. You had to leave early, right? Because was it Libya you had to go to, or somewhere you were going to explore a possible new contract, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Went to Tunisia.
Tunisia, that's right.
Mhm.
And so let's jump into the basketball, because obviously that's a huge part of your life, right? And it's not very often I meet someone who's taller than me. I'm 6'4", so I was looking up to you. You're 6'6", 6'7", right? Right in
Yep,
that
yep,
range.
6'6". Mm-hmm.
And our stories are similar in ways. I was a forward in high school, played varsity, ended up playing guard in college. I played for the Army in Texas, and then so I was a shooting guard at 6'4", and because when I got into college, there were a lot of taller guys there, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but you have gone from high school to college into the pros, and then you went to Cape Town. You were in Mongolia briefly, and then
Mm-hmm.
you went to Cape Town, where you took them to 2 championships, right? Am I
Yes, sir.
correct in my stats?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Tell me
sir.
about your experience in Cape Town. I know you're not there anymore. You just signed with South Sudan Cobra Sports, and I want to talk about that. But tell me about Cape Town, because it was really an extraordinary experience there, right?
Sure. So I spent 11 straight months in Cape Town, right? So, mind you, this was my first time in Africa. So I was blessed. I had the luxury to just go to one of the most beautiful places on the world, right?
Yeah.
But when I got there, realistically, I didn't know what to expect. Everybody treated me with such grace and respect, and they heard about me, the things that I've done in America, so they embraced me. And then, once I really told everybody about my things I wanted to do off of the court as well, they received me even more, it seemed, because they notice where my heart is. They know where my plan and my initiatives are in terms of economic development out there. So they want, people in Cape Town, it's very developed. Let's start there, right? So they're always looking for new nuances and innovative ways to help improve South Africa in general. So, it's just an awesome place. It's really, I consider it my second home. I can't wait to go back. I'm actually going back in January. And, the scaling and the way I see Cape Town developing over the next 20 years is just, the sky's the limit, man. I can't wait to get some property.
Well, I think a lot of people in the States have this inaccurate impression of Africa. They think it's, just agricultural and nothing else, or it's kind of a third world country, or, behind the times a little bit, maybe. And I think it's just misinformation. They really don't understand when actually, if you go to Africa, you go to Tanzania, you go to South Africa, you go to Ghana and Nigeria, some of these major cities, especially, there is everything you could imagine, and it is cutting edge. I mean, technology and design and music and obviously sports. Am I accurate? Do you think in that many Americans have a
100.
misunderstanding of Africa as a continent?
100%. We have to do a better job as people, no matter what race, how old, how young. Whenever you do go to Africa, any part of Africa, we have to do a better job of coming back with the real information and rebranding what it really is, right? I look at us as a society. The best branders that I've ever seen is America, the home of the brave, the land of the free, and it's great. But we have to take that same approach when we're talking about Africa, right? We can no longer come in with the mindset of poverty, the mindset of they need help. No, we have to come into the mindset of, okay, they have Lamborghinis. They have, out of our 10 African American billionaires, 40% come from Nigeria alone. Right.
Wow.
It's like it's certain things that we have to know. It's so much more than just the resources, but also in the private equity, the fintech space. There's some amazing things that's going on there that, some of the best gamers in the world are coming from Africa. And we all know where gaming and tech is going in the next 10 to 20
esports.
years. Yeah. So it's very, it's an emerging market, especially, you talk about the sports side of things as well. With the whole, they just brought the NBA Africa there the last 3 years, but also the NFL Africa has just approached Africa as well. So
Really?
they're scaling, they're scaling things up at a rapid pace, man. So I suggest everybody to really tap in and get involved as early as possible.
Well, the more I learn, associating with you and with Lloyd Ward and Ward Holdings, which we're going to talk about a little bit, the more I learn, I'm really intrigued, just purely from an investment standpoint, if nothing else. But it's more than that. It's more than just the investment opportunity. I mean, we can talk a little bit about the pre-IPO with Ward Holdings. I know you're kind of a celebrity host or a celebrity sponsor of Ward Holdings, right? You're more than that. You're a business. You're involved in business development. You and Lloyd are very good friends. You've stayed at his home, I know, in Tanzania, if I'm not mistaken, and so forth. But I'm very intrigued by it from a financial standpoint. But it's more than that, because Africa has so much richness to it, and depth and diversity, and just heart, right? The culture. I mean, obviously I look at Tanzania a lot because I work with Lloyd a lot these days. We're doing some things together, but South Africa is the same way. I mean, every country in Africa has its own unique characteristics, and just the music and the colors and just everything. It's just so like this kaleidoscope of opportunity, right? And richness that is very appealing. It's very attractive to me. So anyway, tell me more about Cape Town. What did you like about it best?
The best thing about Cape Town, other than the beaches, other than the party life, they have some amazing people, man. I've learned so much. Like in Cape Town, for example, I got really into wine. One thing that I didn't know, that Cape Town in general, Cape Town and Stellenbosch, that's where the best wine in Africa comes from, literally, because of the climate, everything that's going on, especially Stellenbosch. So I hooked up with some of the best sommeliers inside of Africa in general, some of the best vineyards. And, it just exposed me to so much. From an international business standpoint, I find that a lot of people that have businesses there, they're from all over in the world. Europe, a lot of Europeans live in Cape Town, right? A lot of people in America, they live in Cape Town. And they actually brought their businesses from where they started at, and they brought it to Cape Town for a better opportunity, also a better way of living, because you can get the exact same thing for a cheaper price. And, if you're a business person, that's where you want to be. So
right.
Cape Town it's a one of a kind place.
Yeah. How does the cost of living compare to the US?
For sure. So let's break it down like this, Pat. If we go out to dinner, okay, we go get a lobster, we get a bottle of wine, we get everything else, entrees and everything. An expensive meal that may cost $300 here in the States, it would literally cost about $70 to $60 in Cape Town.
Wow.
If not better quality as well. Exactly.
And it's kind of like Malibu or somewhere, right? I mean, the beaches are incredible.
Exactly. The beaches are incredible.
Did you learn how to surf while you're there? That's my question.
The sad part about being an NBA Africa athlete, I couldn't hike, I couldn't surf, I couldn't ride horses, I couldn't do anything of that nature because of my contract.
Right. They don't want to risk you getting hurt. You're an asset.
Exactly.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been watching some of your like highlights of your game, and my favorite move you do, which is actually my favorite move, is when you fake left and spin to your left and lay it in. And I do that move all the time, and they're left holding their jock, trying to keep up. And you do that a lot. I see that a lot in your highlights. You know which move I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice go-to, man. Actually, one of my veterans, Ben Uzo, he taught me. He played for the Raptors for a long time. He taught me that move, so I implemented it into my bag.
It's unstoppable, because they're either going to foul you or you're going to score, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, we are up against our first break, but we're visiting with Jared Harrington. He's an NBA basketball player with NBA Africa, entrepreneur, philanthropist. Lots more to talk about. So don't go away. We'll be right back, and we'll continue the conversation.
All right. Good job, guys. All clear. Back in 2.
All right. Thanks, Matt. So on the YouTube video, Jared, anybody who watches the YouTube gets the behind the scenes. They get kind of the in between chat because we got a minute or two here of ads. So, I've never been to Africa. It's on my bucket list. If you were to go anywhere in Africa as your first trip, where would you go? Would it be Tanzania? Would it be South Africa? I mean, would it really be Cape Town?
It'll be Cape Town, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Kenya, then Cairo, Egypt, then Lagos, Nigeria, then what's another place I would want to say? I would stick with those 5 first. Those would be
even before Tanzania.
Well, Tanzania will be on my 5th. Yep, even before Tanzania.
I was gonna say, but I don't know if Lloyd would like to hear that. It's number 5th on his list.
Tanzania will come number 5 for me for sure. Because I mean, like I said, Tanzania is awesome, but like I said, you have a misconception because a lot of people see Tanzania as Zanzibar, right? And the real place in Tanzania that people should really go to is Dar es Salaam.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the stock market is that they're going public with, right?
Precisely.
Before they go to NASDAQ. So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was never as good a basketball player as you are, but I'll tell you a funny story. I basically sat the bench in high school. I moved into a new high school my senior year. They already had their team. And so I was their practice dummy, but so I didn't play a lot. But then I went and played for the Army in Texas, and I had a phenomenal team. I was one of 2 white guys on the team. We had our starting 5. They were 6'10", and 7'1", and then me and my friend were the 2 guards. We're both about 6'4", but I improved so much, so dramatically that I came home for a Christmas holiday and we played in this alumni tournament. And the first breakaway, I double hand dunked it right in this guy's face. I hit several 3-pointers. I just blew him away, right? And they were like, what the heck? Who are you? And what happened to that other guy? That was my sweet, I guess, the closure to my high school basketball career. It was fun. It's true. You play with guys that are better than you, man, you will automatically improve. Right?
100%. 100%.
Sorry to interrupt, but we are coming back.
Thanks, Matt.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Finding Certainty on Voice America Business, and we have a special guest today, Mr. Jared Harrington. Jared's only 25 years old. Is that right, Jared?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
25. I told you I'd tell you a funny story. I was playing basketball at the gym. This was 6 months or so ago, and me and this one guy who we were the 2 older guys, we had one other player, and we were playing these 3 high school kids, and we beat their butts, right? And when we were done, they said, man, they're like, you guys are pretty good. I go, how old are you? I actually asked them, I said, how old do you think I am? And they said, I don't know, 35. I said, well, if you flip those 2 numbers around, you're going to be right. It seems strange that I'm 53 years old because I don't feel that old. But anyway, but we added it up, and I was older than all 3 of them combined.
Wow.
So, I look back at when I was 25 years old, and I wish I had my head on as straight as you do and had accomplished as much as you do. I was still trying to figure out my head from my butt, when I was 25. And yet you are doing so much with your career and with your business. And so I want to jump into that. Tell us a little bit about BTO, about Beat the Odds Ventures, and then maybe later in the show we'll get into Beat the Odds Global, which I know is where your real heart is. That's your passion. But let's talk about the business. Sure. BTO stands for Beat the Odds. How did it start, and what does it do? Let's let our listeners understand, you as an entrepreneur first, and then we'll get into the philanthropy side later.
For sure. So Beat the Odds started actually when I was in Mongolia. So I will tell you a funny story. This is my first contract coming out of college, and I had an agent at the time, and the agent said, "You should get a financial advisor." And I looked at him like with such a look of disgust. I just was like, how dare you look at me and say I need a financial advisor? You don't even know how smart I really am. So it motivated me to to really get smarter. And so I tapped into all my resources. I learned about private equity. I learned about VC, and I just locked in. So every day in Mongolia, my schedule was to wake up, work out, go to practice, and study. And I would do that every single day while I was there, right? And to a point where it's like, okay, other athletes need to take the same approach. They need to take this mentality. They need to take, everything that I want to do with financial literacy. And what can I do to help the masses, especially with my already built platform from the athlete perspective? So I said, Beat the Odds. And then boom, it sparked it. So Beat the Odds started out with just financial literacy. And as we've grown this time in Asia and Africa, we actually turned into a literacy conglomerate. And so we teach different forms of literacy, not just financial. So if that's legal, right? If that's blockchain, metaverse, not metaverse, Web3, crypto, it goes very, very extensive. And we even go extensive to a master monetization course that we teach with each curriculum, because at the end of the day, it starts with a mentality, right?
Right.
So we find some of the best experts all over the world to feed back into our curriculums, into our platforms. And we really make it a standpoint through our media, our curriculum, and our events.
Well, and this is no small endeavor, right? One of my very first guests on Finding Certainty, he's owned a credit repair company for 30 plus years. Actually, one of the first credit forensic or credit restoration companies in America. And he talked about how he actually tried pushing a program into the schools that would teach kids about finance and teach them about how to use their credit and these principles. And he actually got a lot of pushback from the financial institutions and others, because they don't want you to know those things. They don't want you to have good credit. And because the worse your credit is, the more you're going to pay them, right? And the worse you understand, the less you understand finance, the more likely you're going to borrow money at high rates, it's so forth and so on. And so it was really surprising to me to hear that the schools and these institutions were not encouraging kids to learn these principles. You'd think it just goes against everything that we hold dear, right? It's building strong communities, but it comes down to the almighty dollar, and people want to earn their interest, and they want us to stay in bondage. And so I love the fact that you realized that there was a need. You did something about it. You've now helped over 100,000 kids to learn and develop these literacy skills, and you continue to do so. It's ongoing. And that's pretty incredible, my friend.
And let me tell you the best part. We have a curriculum, a tier 1 and a tier 2 curriculum for every subset that we're offered. We offer 7 to this current date, right? Any client that we have in Africa, I don't even call them clients. I want to call them our community. Any member from our community is completely free in Africa.
Really?
So like I said, it's even, and this is our for-profit. This is not our nonprofit, even though they go hand in hand. But we have a mindset of it's so much bigger than the dollar, because when we do right, great things come back to us, right? And I understand that, I was born in DC, and this is where I'm very comfortable. I help a lot of people here in the States as well. But man, people in Africa need it twice as worse, And so, I came over there with that mentality, and the greatest thing about me, and I'm glad you pointed that up, about a lot of challenges that a lot of people may face when they want to, step into this financial literacy world, or this literacy world in general. I come into it as a professional athlete, right? So it's a little bit different when you just see me play on ESPN and NBA TV last week, and then I'm coming into your community the next week. You're like, I just saw you on TV. What are you doing here? With no security, looking regular. I'm like, I'm a person too. Basketball is what I do, not who I am. right? So
Yeah.
my passion is to help no matter which way I can, even if that's providing access. Because, one thing about being an NBA Africa athlete, you get access to a lot of connections, a lot of people, right? So that's why I built the BTO platform, because I can invite anybody into my platform, someone like yourself, invite anybody into my platform to just give their little nitbits about what their specialty is to educate the masses.
Well, I respect you a lot, my friend.
Mm.
I've had a lot of different guests on our show, but you're the first athlete I've had, actually, professional athlete. So you'll always be remembered as the leader, I guess, in that space. But I really love that. I love that you are making a point to recognize that you've been blessed. You're giving back, and I really think that athletes and anyone who has that sort of influence, they have that sort of access. They have an opportunity not just to earn a great income and entertain people, but they have an opportunity, even a responsibility to give back. Right? It's more than just you should do this. It's really you need to do this. And I'm really glad that you understand it, because not everybody does, right?
Not everybody does, Pat. And the thing about it is, this is just a tier. This is just the low end, right? The next step is the school, because I'm building innovation schools and also bespoke stadium. We'll get more into that later. Or I'm building bespoke stadiums throughout Africa as well as we speak. So the innovation school is the first phase. And that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. Actually, a big reason why we met is because I was at Liberty University presenting this to them, because I actually want to have it in the States and as well as back in Africa. But with the Innovation Academy, man, I don't want just a regular school, right? I want to curate the highest thought leaders. I want to curate agriculture, private equity. I want to curate that master monetization when we have these super terrestrial, athletes that just come out of nowhere, 7 foot tall, and they're going to get drafted to the NBA in the next 2 years. Okay, now we have to bring them into a place, a safe space where we educate them about master monetization. How do we, monetize your image and likeness? NIL deals. It's so much deeper than the eye sees. So I'm really excited about the things we're able to do.
Well, I've heard you use two phrases. You talk about major substance and major change. And when you have the platform that you do as a pro athlete, as a celebrity, as it were, you have this level of fame and exposure and notoriety. I mean, you're being interviewed on CNN and Business Weekly and Entrepreneur Magazine. I mean, the list goes on, right? And you do have an opportunity to maybe the best word for it is to create a legacy, right? To make a difference. We talk in our company, Certainty Management, about more than just making income. We want to make a difference. We want to do more than just do business. We want to do good. And why is that, right? Why is that important? Number one, I do believe we have an obligation to do it, a responsibility. But I'll tell you, it is so much more gratifying and fulfilling when you do. If you haven't figured this out yet and you're out there trying to build a business and or be an entrepreneur, if you don't understand the value and the importance of giving back and paying it forward. I've got a mentor named Bill Walsh. He's a billionaire here in the States.
I was just with Bill last week. It's crazy you said that.
Really? Well, he talks a lot about how you got to serve first, right? And if you do, everything will come back to you. You put it out there and it comes back. So I love that, but
shout out to Bill. He's a great guy. He actually told me to get started on my book right now. I told him I've been writing a book for a few years. He said, what you waiting for? Put it out. I said, Bill, I will do that. Yeah,
I'm actually going to his Rainmaker conference this week here in Vegas. It starts tonight. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to come out to the next one and be our guest. But so let's talk, since we're on the business topic here, I want to get into more of BTO Global, but let's talk about your relationship with Lloyd Ward, because he was my guest last week. It was one of the most listened to episodes I've ever had. Got a lot of positive feedback on it. And you two are like two peas in a pod. I mean, you are like the younger version of Lloyd Ward, right? Because
that's exactly how we connected. They put us together like, he is you. Build him up. Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, and what he's doing with Ward Holdings, we referred to his episode, we called it The Unshackling of Africa and Liberating Africa, and what they're doing with cutting out the middlemen and removing the marginalization, the colonialization, the mismanagement, and importing food directly to the U.S. rather than it going through India or China or Vietnam and other places. You know, it seems so simple, but it's taken 300 years to get there. And you are doing the same thing. You're rebranding Africa, and you're helping open up borders and opportunities for both Americans, you know, people here in the States and people in Africa. And it's creating this really amazing synergy that obviously Lloyd is doing, you're doing as well. And so, you know, when we talk about rebranding Africa, we mentioned this early in the show, but why do you think it's necessary? Why is it so important that it happen, if I may?
It is important because if not now, when? It is a time right now when we have a technology space, we have 1 degree of separation. It's so many things that's happening to us all at one time. We have to take advantage of it, right? Because at the end of the day, we've been seeing Africa has been at a place of, you know, 3rd or 4th or 5th, never at a highlighted moment. Exactly. Never at a highlighted moment of, you know, we can be number 1. With the masses, the average age of Africans right now is 19 years old. That should tell you something, you know, and that's a major fact that a lot of people don't understand. It's a young continent, literally. So when you think about the youth, you think about the tech, it's a no-brainer that both of them are going to be at the top. Now it's a matter of, does it happen today? Does it happen in 10 years? Does it happen in 40 years, 60 years? Only time will tell. But one thing we do know, it will happen.
Well, the thing is if you're smart, then you want to get in and ride that wave, be a part of it, help support it, open up doors. As I said, just strictly from a financial standpoint, Africa is the place to invest these days. I mean, Lloyd is spot on with Ward Holdings and their pre-IPO. They're making it transparent. They're making it public. They're going to take it to NASDAQ. I mean, if you want a phenomenal investment, get in on one of their pre-IPO meetings they have twice a week and buy some shares at 10 cents a share, because imagine if they went to $100, $200, $300 a share like Apple and these others have. I mean, it could literally make millionaires being a part of something that has been a long time coming, but is actually coming to pass. I mean, they're already valued at $5.6 billion, and they've just had their first shipment of cashews come into the country 3 weeks ago. And so now, did you get a chance to go to Tanzafest, or were you out of country or out of the
I was out of the country. I was out of the country at the time. I didn't go, but you know, I'm in constant communication with them daily, so I know it went well. I'm really, you know, outside looking at it, I'm just proud of the efforts and things that they're doing, because, you know, me and Lloyd, we talk all the time. You know, he's opened up a lot of doors for me to make my job a lot easier as well. And then the reciprocity that that we have is that I'm able to have that social capital from, you know, a broad standpoint. So a lot of people, they want to hear what I have to say. So it's a no-brainer, man. I love Lloyd.
Well, you do. You have a good platform, and you have a voice that people are listening to, Jared. They want to hear it. And you hit a really good point. I think a really important point about the age of the majority of the population in Africa is very young age. They're millennials and beyond. And so it's this whole new generation that's coming up. They want the opportunity. They're willing to work for it. I mean, some of the hardest workers, most humble, most extraordinary people I've ever known were from Africa. And I'll tell you where I say that. I lived in Italy for 2 years. I did a service mission for my church in Italy, and later went back as an interpreter with the army. But I had several friends from Ghana and Nigeria, and they were the most incredible people I've ever known. Not only talented and the hardest workers I've ever met, but so humble and I think it's an important piece to it all. You know, and maybe in some respects, I'm sure it's come from the challenges and the hardships that they've gone through. But I believe humility is a really important piece of long-lasting success. It's one thing I liked about you, even though you've accomplished these amazing things in the first quarter century of your life, and you walk down the street there in Cape Town or South Sudan, and people come up and ask for your autograph, and et cetera, et cetera. You were really humble, you were really down to earth. And you talk about going in and meeting kids, and you don't have a bodyguard with you. You don't have a big entourage. That says a lot about you, Jared. And it's one of the reasons I think you're seeing so much success, and why Africa is going to be wildly successful, because they appreciate the opportunities they have. They don't take them for granted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not arrogant about it. Even when they're wildly successful, at least in my experience, most Africans I've met are just really authentic and genuine. They're really down to earth. So would you agree?
Precisely. I would agree 100%. Actually, one of the speakers that I have, his name is Julius Malawi. He's coming in, and we met at a conference, Unstoppable Africa. I had no idea this guy was a billionaire. We were sitting over there drinking our wine and just talking regular, right? And so he never even mentioned his accomplishments or nothing. Nothing he's done. This guy's built city. This guy's helping Akon build his city, right? And I'm up here talking to this guy about food and drinks and how we like it. It's just, I love that type of approach, because he didn't even know I played in the NBA Africa as well. We're just two guys talking about how can we make a change, So I would say that they do have a level of humility over there. And they also have a level of, they want more, right? They're tired of, they're hungry, man. They're tired of getting that notion of, okay, nothing is going on over here. They want to stand up. They want to really push, the narrative of, this is the new Africa.
Right. Well, we are up against our second break and last break. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back in another minute. And we're listening to Jared Harrington. He's an NBA basketball player. Splits his time between Washington, D.C. and currently South Sudan. So let's come back and talk about your new contract and the new move you've made. And let's get into your nonprofit as well. Hold tight, guys. We'll be right back.
Perfect.
All right, nicely done, guys. All clear. Back in 2.
Let me grab this charger really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect.
So you'd go to
one of my favorite.
Go ahead.
I'm saying this is one of my favorite interviews, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. We have a good time. I just lost you though.
Okay, hold on, let me come back.
Lost your picture.
Oh no, I'm coming. Okay. How we doing now?
Yeah, it's good. I have to make a joke about our blue shirts.
Yeah, you got to, man. You got to. We didn't even plan this.
Nope. Great minds think alike, I guess.
Didn't even plan it, man. I wish you can come up for this week, and I wish I could have got you guys up here. But I'm after this event, I'm having the World Youth Leader Summit next year in Africa. I'm also having a woman business conference up here in DC as well. So I definitely got to get you guys involved with this one, because the people that's coming to these events, man, you'll meet some great people.
Yeah. We'd love to come. I'd love to come over to Cape Town or over to Africa. And it's been on my bucket list for years. I have a friend who just went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro just about 3 weeks ago.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
All right, guys, coming back here in just a few seconds.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Matt.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show. at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
We're back with Jared Harrington, NBA basketball player. He's currently playing for South Sudan, Cobra Sports in the Nile Conference, right? Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
just a recent transfer not too long ago that you contracted with them, decided to leave gorgeous Cape Town and move to, is it Juba, South Sudan? Is that where they're headquartered?
I was in Juba, South Sudan. Mm-hmm.
So tell us just briefly, and I want to get into the nonprofit before we run out of time here, but tell us briefly why you made the move, why you decided to go from Cape Town to South Sudan.
For sure. One thing we all know, business is business, right? So South Sudan came with an offer that I couldn't resist. And so I had to make the best business decision for my career, all in all.
I understand.
Plain and simple. Yeah.
You miss Cape Town, but it's Juba. It's a beautiful city.
So Juba is a beautiful city. It's still developing. I spent about 2 months in Juba with the team training before, because in the NBA Africa, we're all in a bubble in Egypt. And then after that bubble in Egypt, we go to our next bubble in Rwanda. So like I said, I spent that 2 months out there. It was amazing, man. The people received me so well. I see that they're trying to build a lot there, right? South Sudan has one of the best basketball teams in the world. And a lot of current NBA guys actually come out of South Sudan. So a lot of people are dumping millions and millions of money down there. So it's going to be very successful.
I love the fact that the NBA is investing so much into Africa. I mean, they've obviously seen the value of that investment. They're building gyms, they're, and stadiums and so forth and so on. And, they know it pays off. Some of the greatest players in the world have come out of Africa, and, like Mr. Jared Harrington, right?
For sure.
You are
and
making your own name
as
there.
Well.
That's right.
Yes, I mean, the reason why I bring up Dikembe, even though he felt a little ill currently, we're actually, his business and my business, we just collaborated. He has a business with self-sustainability water, and he's coming in because I told you I'm trying to build bespoke stadiums as well as innovation academies throughout Africa. So shout out to Dikembe. Hope he gets better.
Well, we are coming toward the end of the show. So let's talk about BTO Global in a little bit of detail. We actually have a caller that I want to get to ask a question here in a minute. But as you've moved from the States to Mongolia to Cape Town, now you're in Juba, you're traveling, but you're playing for South Sudan. Through it all, you decided to start this foundation. And it's focused on literacy, not just financial literacy. You talk about blockchain, you talk about entrepreneurship and so forth and so on. What was it primarily that made you want to do the nonprofit route as well?
So for the nonprofit route, that's where my heart is, right? My heart has always been about giving back. And with me being all these different places, I'm like, okay, I can have different branches all over the world. I can have BTO Global literally be global. So it was,
right.
We're focused on economic development. So we just made the integration to Mexico now. So now we're officially in Mexico as well. And so the things we're able to do and the people we're able to, the lives we're able to change. For one quick story, in Africa, I had a guy, his name was Tony. And I had a series called Stop Loss series. So I will go around different places throughout Africa. I'll find different African cameramen and get that workforce development back into my nonprofit. And we'll go highlight different small business owners, different guys from out of the townships, some high-level CEOs. We just want to really highlight these different things that's going on in Africa, man. And this guy in particular, we went to his house. I couldn't even get in the door. I'm so tall. I had to bend my head down. And I had a conversation with him and his brother. And I said, man, do you know what cryptocurrency is? And his brother said, Crypt what? I'll never forget. He said, Crypt what? And I had to think in my mind, this is the first time, I'm the first person that introduced this guy to cryptocurrency. He didn't even know what it was. And I said, man, I just sat back. I sat back and almost cried. I got a little emotional, to be honest, because I'm like, wow, these are things that we take for granted. Even though if we're a believer or not a believer, the fact that we have the access to know what these things are is the thing that it really messed me up, man. And so from that day on, I went so hard with my nonprofit that I'm like, you know what? This is something that needs to be done.
Right. I've heard you say on other interviews and just in speaking with you, you talk about being the mentor that you never had, right? And just how important it is to help kids, help athletes. I mean, there's a lot of athletes out there who need financial literacy. They need to know how to invest to make sure they're not wasting their money, and they're putting it into causes and businesses so that it continues, because we all know that every professional career comes to an end, and sometimes faster than we want it to. Right. But, you have gained that understanding, that paradigm shift that so many need to have, and so many kids can benefit by that mentorship, by that guidance and direction. It can change lives generationally if you do that. Right. Exactly. That's what I love about Ward Holdings and what Lloyd is doing, because he is changing things generationally and using all his experience as the first African-American, CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and to change things. This is historic. It's not just financial. It's not just good business. It is, like I always say, it has heart. But real quick, we have a caller on hold. If you don't mind putting him through, I think he has a quick question for it. It's maybe a surprise to you, Jared, but it's Mr. Frank Hellring. You're going to be on his show here on Voice America next week.
My God, Frank.
Hey, Jared, how are you? Nice to hear your voice. Haven't heard it since we were in Lynchburg, Virginia. I just wanted to put in a quick call to you to tell you how excited I am to have you on my show on the 30th. And we'll talk about
You cut out there, Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where did you lose me?
Said we'll talk about, and then you went blank.
Oh, my goodness. That's terrible. No, Jared, I was just saying, I haven't heard your voice since we were in Lynchburg. And I'm looking forward to having you on my show on the 30th of December so we can talk about the aftermath of your incredible event that you're putting on in D.C. on the 12th of December.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't wait. The 30th is fastly approaching.
So
absolutely. Well, I'll look forward to having you on the show. You guys take care. You had a great show today, Patrick.
Thank you, my friend. We appreciate you. To that point, Jared is spearheading a big event in Washington, D.C. this next week on December 12th. It's called Innovation Now, right? And it's really a precursor to President Biden's African World Leaders Summit, right? And you want to make a quick plug for that? Tell us what it's about, and then how people can get a hold of you. And then we're going to be up against our block here.
For sure. So Innovation Now, we're just highlighting how do we bridge business between African and American and also global business, right? So I'm bringing in Judith Malawi as a speaker. Lloyd is also a speaker, and also U.S. Representative Oye is speaking as well. And the people in the room are flying in from all over places, like Uganda's government's flying in for us, the Liberian government's flying in for us, the Tanzanian government's flying in for us. And we're just really coming up with innovative solutions of that one problem, because at the end of the day, we need to bring business to Africa, and Africa needs to bring business all over the world, right? So how do we help each other? How do we help one another, and how do we scale it? So, like I said, I'm excited for that event. It's a precursor to Joe Biden's summit, and the first of many.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I wish you the best of luck, Jared.
For sure.
It's interesting. I see this in Lloyd. I see this in you, and several of our guests are great examples of throwing that pebble into the water that becomes a rock, becomes a boulder. It has these ripple effects, right? You become a basketball player, you end up going to Africa, you start your business, start your foundation. and you start having these ripple effects that just keep going, right? I mean, one of the things you did when you were in Cape Town is you helped stop people from being evicted illegally. And I know it's one of your proudest achievements, right? I've heard you say that. You know, who would have thought that you'd be in Cape Town, helping people save their homes, right? And
who would have thought, right?
And now you're meeting with, you know, world leaders and as a precursor to the President's Summit, and you're bringing together these minds, these not just business leaders, but government leaders, global leaders, to talk about solutions. Africa has 60% of the arable land in the world. They will be the leader in food production and really feeding the planet as we approach 9 billion people. If that doesn't turn somebody's head, I don't know what will, right?
Exactly.
Because we all got to eat, right?
We all got to eat.
It's kind of important. It's like I saw a quote once that said, you know, money isn't that important, but it's right up there like with oxygen on the gotta have it scale. You know, food is the same, right?
Exactly.
So any last thoughts as we wind this thing down?
Oh man, first and foremost, just appreciate you, Pat, as always. The things that I'm doing, I couldn't do without God. So I always have to give him the glory. And also anybody that wants to stay tuned or, you know, join our initiatives, we also have an initiative with Google headquarters in Africa. We're sending 10 kids from my area in Washington, D.C. We're sending them to Google headquarters for workforce development, you know, potentially get a full-time job and also get that rebranding of Africa like I spoke about. And so we have tons of initiatives like that. But follow me on Jared Harrington 10. Also, you know, follow our for-profit at BTO Ventures and also our nonprofit at bto.global. And then for our website, it's www.btoglobal.org.
Well, you've been a great guest, Jared, and it's always a pleasure. Best of luck with your event this coming week. Wish we could be there, but we will be cheering you on from this side of the country. And one of these days, we'll go to Cape Town together. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, looking forward to it, man. Bring your golf clubs.
I will. I'll bring my basketball. Maybe we can play a little one-on-one. You got to go easy on me, though.
For sure, man. For sure.
Well, we've been listening to Jared Harrington. He's the founder and CEO of BTO Ventures, Beat the Odds Ventures, and BTO Global, doing a lot of great good. And continue those ripple effects, Jared. You're going to change millions of lives. We will be rooting for you, cheering you on, and helping if we can. And it's been an honor. Thanks so much for being here, my friend.
Anytime. Can't wait to come back.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
All right, perfect. Good job, guys. We're all clear.
Perfect.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
So
You're welcome.
we're still recording, Jared. So if you got any great jokes you want to tell, anything you forgot to say.
Okay, let's see. I don't think I got any jokes, but the one only joke that I've ever had, we were in the bowl, the NBA Africa League one time, and my teammate, I was mad. I had a bad game. My teammate, he came over I wanted to sit by myself. He came over to me. I was sitting at the table. He dropped a plate of food. He said, Jared, tapped me on my shoulder twice. No matter what you're going through, don't forget to eat. I looked at, I was so mad, when you were so angry, you're like, man, but I had to crack a smile because I'm like, man, life isn't that bad, man. I could eat some meal. I could eat the food, So,
that's right. Speaking of food, right? So I'll tell you my wife's favorite joke that she tells all the time. Well, she says it's all relative, depends on who your relatives are, but that's another thing. She says, so what do you get when you combine an elephant and a rhinoceros? It's a good Africa joke, right?
Elephants and a rhinoceros. Well, you get destruction.
Yeah, get big footprints, right? No, so what do you get when you combine an elephant and a rhinoceros? And she just waits, and then she says, Elephino. Shout out to
You
my
gotta,
wonderful wife, Tesha, and her favorite joke.
you gotta let me steal that. You gotta let me steal that, man.
You can have it. Put it on Instagram or whatever. So I have a question I wanted to ask you, and I noticed when you play in your jersey, you can see your tats. So is there a story behind the big tattoo on your shoulder? It looks like a big cat to me, but I can't quite tell. Is that what it is, or is it something else?
So it's a lion. I got it when I was about 17 years old. It was actually my first tattoo. And the tattoo says, work or don't eat. And I've lived by that motto forever. Literally, that was my first tattoo I've ever got. It says, work or don't eat. And from there, every tattoo I have is something inspiring. So on the back of my arm, I have your pain has purpose. Down here, I have my favorite Bible scripture. Right here, I have fearless with the wolf. I have my city, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. So, everything is, I look at all my tattoos like a work of art. I haven't got tattooed in a very long time, but I think the ones that I have, they're significant enough.
That's cool. I don't have any tattoos. You've got more than enough for both of us, but I know there's a lot of thought that goes into them, and talking about rebranding Africa, it's really a question of deciding who you are, who you want to be, and then going to work, just like you said, to make it happen, right? And the thing is it's not going to be easy. I mean, we're talking hundreds of years of colonialization and marginalization and so forth that you and Lloyd and others like you are working to overcome. But I believe, and I've talked with Lloyd about this, we talked about it on our interview last week. I believe there are forces at work, both on this side and this side of the veil and the other, that, it's divine choreography that is going to work to help bring it to pass, because it's time, right? It's a long time coming. And I believe people like you and people like Lloyd and Martin Johnson, his partner, and Stephanie, their extraordinary media guru, and Stephanie, what is her last name? Stephanie, it just escaped me, but I believe people like that are involved in this project are working to bring it to pass. But I think you've been prepared to bring it to pass, right? It's more than just a desire. I believe that this has been in the works for a long time, even from birth, right? I mean, you look at Lloyd's preparation as a CFO or a CEO of Maytag, and as the president of Frito-Lay, I mean, and senior VP of Pepsi, and the president of the Olympic Committee. You got a pretty good mentor there, Jared, if I may say so. Yeah. I mean, I know he's helped you a lot, and you're learning a lot from him. But I do believe that people like you and him and others are where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do. And it has this perfect storm to not just rebrand Africa, but liberate Africa and empower Africa. And I really think to help it achieve its potential, help it come out of the darkness, if you will, into the light. And so,
Hey Pat, did I ever tell you how me and Lloyd met?
No, I'd love to hear it. That's the best part about the YouTube video. You get the backstories, kind of the in between chats.
Me and Lloyd, first off, I'm literally just getting back home to DC, and it's a conference going on. Mind you, I just landed. I didn't get invited to no conference. So when someone told me about it, I said, you know what? It's about Africa. I'm going. I don't care if I need a ticket or nothing. I'm gonna go. So I went, ended up knowing a few people, got in for free and everything. Looked nice. And so I went in there, and right on time, I see a panel, and the speaker is Lloyd. And so I hear him talk about Africa, and everything. And I'm looking around the crowd, everybody's excited. And I'm wondering to myself, I asked my bro, I said, I wonder how many of these people actually lived in Africa like myself. And he said, maybe just you and the speaker. I said, I'm gonna go meet him. And then I said, okay. He said, how are you gonna do that? I said, just wait till you get off stage and I'm just go up to him and I'm gonna become his friend. And so that's literally what happened. He walked off the stage and saw Martin and everybody. I introduced myself and I waited for everybody to take their pictures and everything, just sat in the back. Then I walked up to him perfect time. I said, man, why don't I know you? And then from there, we hit it off. We found out he played basketball as well. He found out some of the things that I was doing. And we stayed connected, man. And so from then on, it just built and built and built and built until the time I went out and flew out to Tanzania for something for my business, my company, to actually shoot some media for BTO. And then a lawyer happened to be there. I told him I was coming. He said, man, just stay with me. And that right there, that's humility,
Yeah.
This guy's never, he didn't have to do that. Let's start there, And yes, he knows that I'm doing some great things on the court and I have a good heart and everything, but that guy didn't know me. All right. So his ability to have that foresight and to, welcome me into his home and let me listen up on his meetings, let me, do all these different and actually, humble himself enough to hear what the young boy has to say. What do I think from my perspective? How can I help him? Man, it was a no-brainer. It really was life-changing for me. So yeah, that's how me and Lloyd met, man.
That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
No, I think it's really important that he has someone like you on his team because you are a younger generation. He's older than me. He's in his 60s now, if I'm not mistaken. And
72.
72. I had no idea. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He carries his age well. I would have given him 10 years less than that. But, I think it's really important that he has that millennial insight, that younger generation insight, because, you talk about the age of Africa coming up, and it's important that you have those insights and those understandings. And, this isn't a dating show. We don't talk about dating, but you may have just come up with one of the best one-liners, best pickup lines I've ever heard. When you walk up to somebody, you see a beautiful woman, or if you're into men, whatever that is, you walk up to that person and you say, why don't I know you?
Why don't I know you?
If I was still dating, I mean, I've been married for years, but if I was still dating, I think I'd probably try that. That's a pretty good one.
For sure. Hey, it worked for me, man, and it actually worked for Bill too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, I'll say hello to Bill today when I see him this evening, and I'm going to be at his conference this week, as I said, and I will wish you the very best for your event coming up this next week, and we will most definitely take a trip someday to God's country, as they call it, right?
Indeed. I appreciate you, Pat, as always.
All right, my friend. Well, thanks for being on the show today. I appreciate you. And I think I'll have a good time with Frank next week, or on the 30th in a couple weeks. Yeah. What a great way to kick off the New Year's, to end the year as his pinnacle guest. And obviously Frank and I are very different. We're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. He's very outspoken and political. I'm a little more laid back and easygoing, but that's why we make really good partners. We're actually partnered in another LLC called Certainty Global. That we have some projects, a water project, and some other things that we're working on together. But I like Frank a lot. He's a good mentor and a friend of mine. So enjoy your time on his show as well. And
indeed, I will.
We will continue to spread the message of beat the odds.
For sure. I definitely want to hear more about what you guys going on in the water project, because like I told you, I'm in business with the Kimbe's water company, and they're actually flying over. So if it's some type of way we can make some things happen on that end as well, we should do that.
Most definitely. I'll get you some information on it, and let's keep talking. Let me turn the recording off, everybody. We can keep going for another hour probably, but I want to keep this short and respect your time, Jared. But
yes, sir.
Thanks so much, my friend. It's always a pleasure. I'm really glad we met and glad we're friends now. So
likewise.
All right, guys. Come back next week. We're having another special guest on December. What is next week? The 13th. You know what? I believe it's going to be my brother Adam Lang. He's the CEO of Emergent 3, who is it's a security company that's helping protect schools, universities, and others from really any emergency, crisis, or threat. They've got a 3D smart map security app that will protect the students in the event of any crisis or threat, active shooters, et cetera, et cetera. So he's the first family member I'm going to have on the show, but I think you'll learn a lot. And until then, I wish you all the very best. Thanks.